Thank you so much for inviting me to speak today. When I went on CNN in 2017 and told Michael Smerconic that affirmative action was a system of legalized racism that would soon be abolished, people thought I was crazy. Now, 5 years later, I stand on the front steps of the Supreme Court because that prediction and the dream of an America that is free of racism can become a reality. I know what is at stake better than anyone. Many of you have heard about me because of my book, Almost Black. As an undergraduate at the University of Chicago 20 years ago, I rejected the twisted logic of affirmative action, which said that a light-skinned constitutional law professor who I once played pickup basketball with, named Barack Obama, was considered black, but a dark-skinned Indian American like myself was considered Asian and therefore discriminated against in college admissions. So when I applied as black, Barack Obama benefited from affirmative action. So when I applied to medical school, I shaved my head, trimmed my long Indian eyelashes, used my middle name Jojo, and applied to medical school as a black man. My plan worked beyond my wildest expectations. I got into St. Louis University School of Medicine despite the fact that my 3.1 GPA was dramatically lower than their average of 3.7 at the time. I am living proof of the racism and hypocrisy of schools such as Harvard and UNC that discriminate against Asian Americans and white people. And I am proud to say that I subsequently took part in the No on Proposition 16 campaign in California. With 57% of the vote, we succeeded in keeping affirmative action illegal at California state institutions such as UCLA, where I got my MBA. At UCLA, I learned that it was possible to have a diverse class of African Americans, Asian Americans, Hispanics, and whites, and a rich educational experience without practicing racial discrimination in admissions. So do not believe anyone who tells you that affirmative action is essential for a good education. Yet this case is about more than Harvard and the UNC Chapel Hill. More than 100 universities, including the entire Ivy League, publicly endorsed affirmative action in the Supreme Court's Fisher decision. Those schools have collected tens of billions of taxpayer dollars and sent millions of rejection letters to applicants whose only fault is the color of their skin or the shape of their eyes. Okay? If you are Asian American or white, these schools are literally taking the money from your paycheck and using it to discriminate against you and your children.
Shame on them! Shame on them!
Still, it will take more than just a Supreme Court decision to end affirmative action in higher education. We will also need the Department of Education and the Department of Justice to enforce the decision. For analogy, Martin Luther King often complained of lax enforcement of the Supreme Court's 1954 decision ending racial segregation by President Dwight Eisenhower and the Department of Justice. Okay? For this reason, I am grateful to the 80 members of Congress, including Senator McConnell, Kevin McCarthy, Tom Cotton, Elisa Stefanik, and Rick Scott, who have publicly endorsed our cause in amicus briefs. Students for Fair Admissions will need their support if we are to pressure the Department of Justice and the Department of Education to enforce a decision if it is favorable. I should warn you that this battle is not over if we win in the Supreme Court. The next battle will be one of enforcement, because the law means less than nothing if it is not enforced. Thank you for letting me speak today.